check.
Nothing coming through it. I do a little bit. Right there,
Oh, yeah. Let me start over. Are you on?
just a little bit.
So you can hear me? Did I pick up? All right.
I hear you. Take my stuff on. Let's go.
All right.
I don't hear nothing.
That's what I was saying. Are you on?
Yup.
Oh, here you
All right, old school family, what's going on? It's Thursday night. We want to say thank you for joining us again for a good hour. Hope it's something that you can take away from this hour, because we love being able to put stuff together like this, just to be able to have you to go back to a place where we come from and that we don't forget. We want to say by the numbers and stuff that we have, thanks for all the people that's been tuning in with us every week, twice a week, 7 o'clock Monday, 7 o'clock Thursday. We also want to be able to let everyone know what we have coming up in the future. And we'll do that as soon as we get to the end of the show. And I do want to say thank you to our sponsors at Indigo Entertainment and Random House. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to finish up the road trip through hip hop. And we really want to keep it close on the subject. And the question that we really want to ask a lot of people is, the music that we had then, was it more relevant for that time, or would stuff be so much better for us now? And so when we say that, we want to break it down and just say what my bro says all the time, this Western diet. And when we talk about the diet is everything that we consume, whether we eating it by our mouth, whether we watching it on TV, or whether we listening to it on the radio. And then whatever it is that you're consuming, whether it's physical food or mental food, is just wondering, how does your spirit and your body perform after you digest so much trash? And so when we say that we wanted to take a road trip through hip hop, of course we started in the East Coast. And the reason why we thought it was so relevant then in the East Coast is because, bro, do you remember? Not only was everybody rapping, but breakdancing was a very big thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The breakdancing back then eliminated beef. You know, if you had beef or plex or something with an individual, it was everybody danced it out. Like bro said last week, everybody was original. Everybody had their own style. Everybody had their own moves. It was the radio. It was just a hell of a time to be part of. So like I just asked the listeners, and I'm asking you, bro, do you think the messages that we had in the music were more relevant then, or would they really be needed right now today?
The message is needed absolutely today. Whenever there's guidance offered, and the music offered guidance, it was done in a way that was perfectly balanced, because it was a culture that the youth could accept, and those who had an understanding what the music's significance was also. So it offered guidance, and guidance is always an act of charity that is going to return. And the communities absolutely need them. We need a setting that is going to be what hip hop offered. You might have not always wanted to go to church, and those in church might have not always understood where you came from with your love for hip hop. But hip hop undoubtedly made its way into the church. And so that's how much the church understood that hip hop was going to be here forever. And so it even had a lane for that, to be in the church. So, I mean, and obviously it represented a street anthem. It represented a street voice. So it was able to cover many fronts and just absorb it. The culture could absorb it. The people could absorb it. And so now when you have a people who are desperate for a message, because our messengers are worn out, man. Our messengers are worn out. They're becoming fewer. And we don't really even know how to treat them. Right now, when they're coming organically from the streets are slaying them down as fast as they can get them up. So.
And so do you think that's like what we was talking about last week? Is that when you speak and you talk about so much negativity, you bring that about yourself? Do you think that's because, like we said, when you go back and you look at the artists that we had back then, you had the battle rappers, you had all the groups that was full of energy, you know, like we said, Run DMC, Houdini, all those type of people. And it wasn't so much like how a lot of people say, bro, that a lot of these rappers that they say are dying now are talking about their deaths or mentioning, you know, like they said when Biggie had his album. What was Biggie's album? Was it Life After Death?
Yeah.
And that they said that when you have such a negative impulse that you bring about negativity. And so when you sit back and you look at what we had when we came up, the music was just a different. I personally feel that the East Coast, it was knowledge that came with it. When we started to venture out west, the West had knowledge, but like NWA said, it was street knowledge. Because we were able to start seeing what was going on. The police brutality, Rodney King, rioting, fighting, just what the police was doing in the neighborhood. So it was like they were the reporters and they brought that to us. But now, if we swing down through the South, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where I'm from, you from, how much do you feel the spirituality was in the songs from the Southern rappers?
Well, you had a spirit of the people. I mean, it was deeply ingrained. You know, that's where a lot of the origins, where the nature, where the character of what we represent as a soulful people in this nation. That's where that character came from. And so that's where that heart is at. That's where the heart is at. That's where the sound comes from. That's where the look comes from. You know, when people were leaving the South and going to the cities, there was a spirit that was merging with the metropolitan areas, that was creating something unique in the metropolitan areas. And these were your darker part of towns. But that spirit came from the South. And so a lot of the rawness is considered more raw. They have titles for it like the Dirty South. And, you know, this is really just the blueprint This is where it's cut out from. And so when we go all over the world, when you represent black Americans who are descendants of slaves, the Mecca is the South. When you talk about black Americans who are descendants of slaves, this is not a sector, this is not a community, this is not a people who are spoken about directly and indirectly to. The minister is probably the only one that speaks directly to that community, that is a descendant from slave, that has a unique story on this earth, and it comes through. The world enjoys watching the audience that we are part of in a very eccentric way. The world digests us in a very eccentric way.
And what do you mean digest us?
Well, we're treated, you have to understand that the slave trade has been taking place since the 1500s. An aggressive slave trade that we must say exploited humans. That exploited human was sectioned off in a very specific way. And that exploited human was capitalized on. And so how do we bring dignity to that statement? You have to dignify the people. And so that's what the South has been in the struggle of doing, and the hip hop even expresses that too.
And so do you feel that back then it was just, and when we back up and we swing back through to the East Coast, I always wondered, why was the knowledge base seem like it was so strong and powerful on the East Coast? You know, it just, let's just use the words mathematics.
Yeah.
Why do you think mathematics were so big on the East Coast? And then when you really go back to just look at everything that played its part, you know what I mean? The DJ. Do we often think sometimes that the DJ was left out or forgot about? And how important of a role did the DJ play?
Right.
Because do you actually think that it was some rappers that probably could have benefited? Like, for instance, we know when we look at the West Coast, Dr. Dre is one of the fine statements of DJ. We got DJ Quick. Do you think it was some rappers that could have benefited by having a better DJ or their music? How important were the beats to what they were rapping to back then, as well as the message?
Well, it's things, you know, it takes on a different meaning when you talk about how marketable or how much financial gain something holds versus the quality of something, the musical quality of it, the artistic quality of it. These are conversations that you have to have when you talk about hip hop. Now, when you talk about authenticity, to me, you had to go with the South. You had to start with the South. Because the South is able to tell you a story about an existence from the street, as street as it can get, when you living with them folks. And you have to deal with the complexities of being who you are and being yourself and being public enemy number one. And that's what made Public Enemy so powerful. Because...
Why, do you think it was because they took on their target to have on their back, and that the message Chuck D and them was delivering? That's what I'm saying. Do you think that the message back then was just something that we listened to because it was available? Do you think it fell on deaf ears? Or do you think, how valuable were Chuck D and those kind of lyrics and message be to us right now?
How valuable?
Yeah.
I mean, you have is that when you have acts of, whenever you have charity, like you got to think about what the spirit of these people was. I mean, to pay attention to something, like what kind of love do you have to have in your heart to be that socially responsible? Politics in this nation, it doesn't but benefit you financially to speak on behalf and to say anything about black, because there's no public earmarked money for black people. But Public Enemy specifically said that black men were being targeted by the police. They specifically said that the communities that black people live in are being bullied by drugs.
Mm-hmm. But to also mention, because we know that back then Chuck D and Public Enemy had a close tie with Islam in the ministry. You know what I mean? And why do you think back then so many of the rappers had that relationship with him like they did? And I'm not just talking about like the gang summits, but it was just that you could hear it and you saw it. And even like I said, before we get off into people like that, man, we had King Son, you know, all the different. Because the way I was thinking about it today, and I knew we was going to do the show tonight, and I was just like, what category do we really think a lot of people play? And so would you say the East Coast was more mathematics and knowledge?
Okay.
The Southern was more spirituality? And then West Coast was just more, that was the real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because until NWA and them really came out, bro, we didn't know how bad brutality and what they were putting up with on the West Coast.
Right.
I remember when I first heard somebody tell me something about the West Coast, they were saying what the police would do to the gang members. They would catch you from a certain neighborhood and drop you off somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Knowing that really, you get dropped off over in this hood and you claiming this, it was just going to be a murder. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, but with all of that being said, do you think right now that there's just such a negative cloud over rap? I'm talking about for the music to not have no substance. The way that these MCs and these artists are, somebody put on something I was reading when I looked in the comments that they said trying to be a rapper and get a rap contract is almost basically like going for suicide.
So they saying that the job requirement, that it's always been some type of weird job description. And, you know, it's like, what made it a job? At first, it was just something that people were doing to express themselves, and it was done in a very natural way, in a very genuine way, sincere way. And then it got polished and refined and cleaned up to put on the market. And it's at this point we got to realize that we have a responsibility to self and to this earth.
So before you say it was cleaned up and it was polished to be put on shelf.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Are we having feedback problem?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to keep up with. We got the half coming up, so we'll get on that here in a minute.
All right. So you said that it was taken and it was polished,
Yeah.
and being able to put out I guess what you said, they cleaned it up to make it more marketable, right?
Yeah.
And so you said before it was done like that, was the raw essence of it because it was so raw before they cleaned it up?
Absolutely. It was something that when something becomes, when it's from God, when something comes naturally because it was formed by the Creator's hands, like when there's no resources and all you have is the inspiration that comes from within, and when the older street individuals in your neighborhood say this is how we living and this is what we're about to do, and it produces life, man, from where we from, that's something unexplained. And it's what we got to start going with. We got to start understanding and cherishing it, because if we're able to be of respondability with it, if we're able to have the respondability with it and to do something and make it grow and have life, then we are functioning as we should be, and we require respect. That respect is going to be given.
So do we, and we talk about this a lot of times off record, but do you really feel that right now, like I said, there's such a negative, great cloud over hip hop, and even right now, as we take the road trip and we coming from the East Coast, we going through the South, we heading up to the West. Right now, what relevance does black educated women have? What would a Roxanne Shante, a Queen Latifah, what part do you think they would play in this game right now?
I mean, they would have a place in royalty, and there would be individuals who would follow them. I think what we lack is a commanding female artist who can say, who can take it to different lanes and have individuals actually follow them.
So what do you think the state of hip hop is right now regarding the black women MCs?
I think there's a rogueness. I think that there's an expression that has to be respected. That when black women express themselves, we got to respect that. But if it's worthy of following, does it garner following? Are there individuals, males and females, that want to say, that direction, I'm feeling that. She's doing her acting now, and there's people who supporting that. That she's doing her, she's selling her products. People supporting that, and so I just feel like there's just so much doing for self. There's so much disconnection from the culture, and I think that's only going to grow. That there's going to be a disconnection from the culture, but that just means that wherever hip hop goes, if people follow it, that's what it's going to be.
So do you think now it's just that they're following it even when it's no substance? Because I mean, when we really think about it, you remember back when the rapping first came out, and it was almost like how the crack and stuff was.
Yeah.
That as long as the crack stayed inside the ghetto,
yeah,
and didn't get out to the suburbs, it was cool.
Yeah.
And then we had a few of white America that wanted to listen to Easy, listen to Too Short, and all this type of stuff. And then it started, I guess, breaking barriers and breaking ground.
Yeah.
And right now, with social media being the way it is, do you think that more white America is influenced off the pain, the eradication, the misjustice, and the negative impulse that we have in rap today? Because we know it's not building us up and helping us. I mean, you know me, you always say right now, as a human being, in the state that we're in right now, this is probably the worst state that I've ever seen us in.
Yeah.
Just being numb to what's going on. And just to look at everything as a whole, you remember what we said on the first show regarding this? That it was a sin to bite and take somebody else's style.
Yeah.
Why do you think that the people were so steadfast to make sure they was all about their own originality? To where now you got ghostwriters, you got 30 people sounding all the same.
Yeah.
Which, you know, now they call it mumble rap. You know what I'm saying? Which back when we came up, MC was really defined about the strength and the potency in his lyrics.
Right.
Which means there were so many different kind of rappers. Remember when I was saying earlier, the vocabulary was sharp. Do you remember how many, man, there was a lot of smart MCs coming up in our time, bro.
Yeah, it was.
When you listen to the crispness of the lyrics, the words, the vocabulary, rappers brought the solar system into play. It was so much stuff that was brought in to play that, as I said earlier, do you just think it would be more relevant now, and did it really fall on deaf ears, or it was just something that we was just so used to hearing from almost every 3 artists?
Bring that to me one more time.
Do you think that music has a greater need now than it did for us? Because what you said was right. All we were doing, we found something that we could support and ride with, and the people that were putting it out was expressing creativity.
Yeah. No, right. So it depends who the audience is. Hip hop has enough versatility for that. You got to look at what Wu-Tang has done now, where, you know, those individuals have graduated and they have found a way to take their brand, because we know, we talked about it last show, that Ice Cube and a lot of those pioneers helped create the business model for hip hop. It had to have a proprietary business brand opportunity, and so they had to brand themselves in this way. They had to control and take control of their brand. And so now this has got to be a part of hip hop now, because in order, just like it has to have that blue, what was it called? Blue Magic. It's got to have that label on it when it's out in the street. And hip hop was very aware of this. And so when you see Busta Rhymes and you see it looks like a freaking African circus in that bad boy, or you see, you know, staring coldly at you, you see an East Coast street rapper, you know what I'm saying, Cool G Rap, somebody like that, you know what I'm saying? So you have a brand, and this is the beauty of hip hop. It has to get this. It has to get this clever. It has to be hardly recognizable, and that's where hip hop is going, to where it's hardly recognizable. But every once in a while, you sit back and you listen to a sound, and you listen to somebody like a Travis Scott tape. I don't know what the guy's personal life is, but he understands that he's got the hip hop vein in him. He understands its origins, and you can hear it just enough. But he's an indigo kid. He's an indigo child. These individuals are going to be very crafty, and we might not be able to keep up.
Well, but that's, man, you know, me and you agree with so much, but I personally feel it's trash, bro. It's trash.
Yeah, but it's keeping the pulse alive of an art that is if the practitioners and if because the custodianship has been taken. If there was a priesthood, somebody has come into the holies of hip hop and and did a jukes. I mean, it was a robbery, strong arm robbery. And so now we ask, where are our priests at? Where are the gatekeepers of the sanctity of it? It's gone. And so, but there are remnants, which lets you know why hip hop is running wild, that there are those who are still, it's like when martial arts went underground. It's really the best thing I can liken it to. Is that when martial arts went underground, no, you can't see that old Chinese martial arts. Because if we do, the ops are going to kill us. So they had to keep it blended and hid. And that's where hip hop is going to be for a while.
Do you think either for a while, or do you think, because when we come back from the commercial break, that's when we gotta, God rest his soul, rest in peace, Pimp C. You know what I'm talking about? I got you, baby. What Pimp C was really on as far as in the South.
Right.
To squash all the feuding. He even mentioned he wanted a union.
Yeah, he did.
In rap. And so, that's what we're going to talk about as we continue taking this tour. Hey, we at the halfway mark. We want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Indigo Entertainment. What's up with it? J-N. We want to give out another shout out to our sponsor, Random Works. Also, you know that the tribute, drink, and everything of the show, because we old school. And old school was a time when Kool-Aid was the same message in every house. So when we get back, we will have a Kool-Aid challenge for the night. Y'all get a good look at it. And it's fire, straight pancreas killer. And we got the Chip Boys. So as we go out to this break, we'll be back for the next half.
I can't hear you.
So, you can't hear me?
Can't hear you.
Are they saying that they hear us?
No, they can hear us. I just can't hear you through these.
Is there one you hear over there?
Yeah. I can hear you at first.
Where's that go to?
This don't go anything. It can't go on here though. And that's what I was trying to get the sound in there, but they talking about that's cherry, man.
Yeah, but they hearing us good.
Test.
Ain't nobody complaining. Let's roll with it.
Yeah, that's just roll with it. Okay, this is about the time.
Looks like we got a little activity tonight.
Yeah, we got some activity going on. People here, they're tuning in now. I'm just about to keep one of these on. All right, they said cherry. What you got on the Kool-Aid?
They closed. Who was that?
That's Alicia. Alicia said.
Who?
Alicia, my Alicia.
She's close.
Yeah.
Right now, she's real close. And I'll mention it once we come back in. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Old School family. We halfway through. Thank you for lending us an hour out of your time. Know it's been a long, exhausting week for a lot of people. The weekend's right around the corner. So right now, we got Sister Alicia, which said cherry. Real close, but it's a mixture. So whoever can get close and can mix the two that we have, you're able to be contacted from us, and we'll get you out what'll be a prize throughout the week. Also, we want to make sure that y'all go to the website, Old School Community Network. And right now, around the holiday season, if you go to the screen for $1.99, there is a very powerful download that we have that is very symbolic to the matriarchs of all our families, our grandma. Love was behind it all. For $1.99, www.Ol'Skooled Community Network. So what we were basically talking about as we trying to conclude through the road trip of hip hop, we want to know, were the messages that we had in our time relevant then, or are they more relevant and needed now? So when we were sitting back and the brother said, what happened to our gatekeepers? What happened to the so-called pioneers? Well, one of the pioneers that we have, like a lot of people know, being from the South, we have Pimp C. And for many of you all know, Pimp C said we didn't rap, we didn't do no hip hop, we sung country rap songs. Is what he was talking about. Which,
what does that mean?
When we talk about the country rap tunes, a lot of people got to understand why the blues was so relevant in the South. The blues, and bro, I'm gonna let you take it there. I ain't gonna lie, I really wasn't never that big of a blues listener, but the blues had spirituality, even though it was a cry and plea for like, go ahead, bro.
Nah, I mean, I'm gonna speak from it from my own personal experience.
Do you want me to pour you a shot of this?
Man, go ahead and let me get some of that straight pancreas healer, I hope. Shoot, I'm gonna put some lemon in it, some lime. We're gonna balance it out.
Yeah.
But let me go ahead and grade this now. We done had some things thrown out.
And this ain't that lean with H-Town DJ Screw.
Man, but it's off the charts.
Ooh, it's fire.
This is... That's a light blend. He kept the floral flavors in it. So, hey, even though they elementally put them back out, you found a way to put them back in. So they took the strawberry down one more element. They took the...
And it's with the old school picture, with the lid on them. But you know, a lot of us never had lids on the picture. But no, we put the Southern rap, do you think, with the blues?
Yeah.
Really, what was the blues to you?
So the blues was our music. It was Southern music. It was descendants of slave music. It was, that's all the only way you could say it. And so it being our music, it had to speak to the soul of the people, which was collective.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about...
And what was the message in blues?
So the message in blues was to speak whatever was going on in your heart without having to feel bad about it. Like that you could go and you could collect with somebody and talk about some real wretchedness and be cool with it. It'd be cool. So it's almost like, the best way I can explain it is, I think it's very similar to a lot of the drill music, where they get together in Chicago and they tell each other, it might be different now, but it's in every city there's that type of music where they say, look, I had to kick in the door, waving the 4-4. Like, and that can be celebrated. So now in blues, when I say something like, you know, I'm cheating, or I'm having to, you know, do something to my woman, or, you know, I need to commiserate with how bad life is right now, and so all I really want to do is drink, and I don't want to hear nobody say nothing foul about me drinking. Matter of fact, I want to hear it celebrated that my drinking is cool. And so when I'm on that, you know, hey, I'm gonna do me. Like, we're not gonna talk about my baby's mama or my baby. You know, I'm out here, I'm kicking it. I'm at the club, and that's all that there is. It's the same thing. You know, but they did it. It was the music. It was music. So it being music, it has to have a sick guitar. It has to have a sick bass. It has to have a sick horn play. If there's gonna be a horn in it,
I feel you.
It's got to be ill. Like, it's got to be on some B.B. King. Yeah. It's got to be on some Prodigy that nobody can do in the world. Really, nobody else can do in the world. Only B.B. King can do it a certain way. So my grandpa got to really just go out and be like, he's from the same area I'm from. He's from that Delta. He came from them fields. And when he gets on them strings, ain't nothing like him on this earth. So they respected the art. Kind of like when hip hop came out and our favorite MC came out. And the MC was just sick with how they did the words. It was like, y'all didn't get it. But he really just gave y'all like 3 allegories at the same time. People who know. But that was a lyricist. But or you might have had somebody like Mystical who could just go country and country, but he could use that East Coast style, that fast rap. He could do that just like Twister.
Twister, baby.
And so you say,
don't. Hey, excuse me. We ain't gonna leave out that Midwest. Hey, and that boy Twister was cold.
Man, Twister is talented and underrated. Majorly.
Very underrated.
And this is how you know. How do we know that Whitney is something special? When we watch the Super Bowl and they cut off all the synthetic opportunities. Damn near the mic could have not worked. And the way that woman sang, we know she's official. She can sing. She needs no help. Twister is still making music. He doesn't have a big company, big production seemingly. But if you listen to his music now, it still bumps because he knows how to do that on a beat. And so, there's people right now who can't make good music since they made good music since their first big productive albums.
Trash. So let's talk about Face. Scarface almost seemed like he was the Grand Reaper, but a black prophet.
Right.
Of hip.
Scarface made his brand.
With the brim.
Yeah. His brand.
The suit.
Yeah. All of it. Scarface is undoubtedly, he's a monument in hip hop. You gotta put, like you said, everything that he represented, the look, the sound, because don't talk about his sound. There's only a few people who got a sound. It's like when they put it on wax, like, damn.
And even one of his titles to his song, bro, which was so cold, I never seen a man cry till I seen a man die.
He's a monument. Yeah.
So, but like we said, Pimp C was attempting to be a gatekeeper and a pioneer for the South. Do we have a gatekeeper and a pioneer to stand up for the West Coast, for the East Coast? The battles and stuff back then didn't prolong to vehicles being shot up, people being shot up. You know, the battles were, because what you just said, bro, is people respect the art so much. Like, LL Cool J destroyed Kool Moe Dee, right?
Yeah.
What do you really feel about the battle between Cannabis
and LL? Oh, man. I mean,
do you think LL kind of gets it because he was a little bit more established, or did Cannabis get him?
That's the only reason he got it. I mean, Cannabis came in like an assassin. He came in like an assassin. Like, he really only seemed to be trained and bred for that type of opportunity. And he made it so epic that L, really, to me, L is the battle rapper that he is because of Cannabis, not because of what he did earlier, honestly. Because Cannabis he really meant something. Like, it was just raw. It was like no name, no nothing. Like, if I put these bars together and I put them together the way I do, and I get the people to feel me, I'm in. And so Cannabis is not a Kool Moe Dee.
Because Kool Moe Dee, I think, was battling because I think he felt, I'm not passing the torch over to this young punk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And LL, man, but see, then you got to go back. Man, it was just so, but what I was trying to say is that they didn't Nate Robinson you when you lost. You know how Nate Robinson got knocked out? Well, that boy was asleep.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in another show.
We ain't even got a chance to touch on that. Yeah.
But if you lost to a good MC,
yeah,
the backlash wasn't so bad because everybody knew if he got you,
Yeah.
he was called.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Almost like the Wood. Remember when the dude said, man, I'll bet you the money, go up and grab her butt?
Yeah.
But everybody knew her brother was Big Stacy.
Yeah.
So when Big Stacy stomped him out,
Right. They welcomed him to the neighborhood, didn't they?
But here's my thing. Man, people knew what was going to happen if you mentioned Rakim.
Yeah. Said the Grim Reaper. Yeah. Coming to end you. Yeah.
If you mentioned KRS-One,
Yeah.
you was going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about ending careers. Because, see, if we come up to the new school battle, have you ever seen anybody that was destroyed the way 50 Cent destroyed Ja Rule?
Oh my gosh, yeah. We haven't had, that's our motto.
That was a Nate Robinson.
It really was. Yeah.
I'm talking about, damn.
Yeah.
He just jumped out of nowhere. I remember watching TV, didn't even know who 50 Cent was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this dude he talking about? It was Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah. When you make a hip hop, right, and that's somebody who understands it and puts art. He's obviously, it shows you how talented his art is because he produces a power off of Wankster. You just said it. It's something coined.
Like a Wankster.
I mean, hey, and it really does create something for hip hop. Say what you say about 50. 50 has to be mentioned in hip hop notables and hip hop being expressed, going from a spirit in from the street to producing all types of interesting things that people are willing to exchange and barter for. Even if it's just when you was all getting ready to go out and somebody had some fresher hip hop gear, whether it was shoes, hats, whatever, and you might have wore something. Cause look, I need at least a hat. I need something, and this is for bartering. That's how rich it is. That to be associated with a look.
Well, so
when the B-boys is getting out.
So let's swing and bust a U-turn and go back a little bit. So do we basically say that even though they got their jewels today, how man Slick Rick own that?
Yeah, oh man, yeah, Slick Rick did.
Own.
I mean, look at what they doing with the chains. You say you gotta give that drip up to Slick Rick, right? That's who really. It was It was always the Jamaicans
with an eye patch on his eye.
Yeah.
A Kango, a bally suit and shoes, and he was draped.
Draped. Yeah, and then had the slick conversation with.
What about Mr. T?
Oh, Mr. T was definitely hip hop, right? Mr. T was definitely hip hop. Mr. T hit you in the 70s with a cut-off shirt, with some sweatpants.
With a mohawk.
But what you didn't know, see, my Dallas players, they know about it. My people in Texas know about this. But they was also, Mr. T was also hip on his Hebrew etiquette. And Mr. T hit you with the fringes on the end too. And see, that's what a lot of people didn't pick up and know. But Mr. T definitely knew his mathematics. And being from Chicago, definitely knew about the nation. And he always carried himself with that respect like that. So Mr. T was definitely hip hop.
Well, and then do we just say how hip hop influenced so much because even though he didn't have no albums and no tracks, Ali was a rapper.
Oh man, and see, go back to Mr. T. Mr. T was a rapper. Mr. T would be on the A-team putting together rhymes. And that's what we loved about Mr. T. Fool, I pity the fool. I go upside your head, he say something just real slick. And then, like you said, Muhammad Ali was probably, he personifies it. We probably don't give him enough correlation. We love Mike Tyson. He would come into hip hop automatically, but Ali deservingly deserves to be the father of it.
So when we use what we say, bro, and I'm gonna ask you, we're a few minutes away from the hour being up.
Yeah.
And we don't want to keep people no longer than what we have to. But checking the thermometer, what do you feel is the temperature of rap right now?
We just did it. It was a beautiful lead-in. Is our music producing a Muhammad Ali, who would you mention? Just mentioned prior, Muhammad Ali. These socially conscious. Mr. T. Is hip hop producing a artist? Is hip hop producing somebody who's out in the limelight? Because that represents a body and a people. Hip hop had the power to influence people to represent something if it was going to be associated with the soil, what they call the soil. That is the heart and the life system of the people. Because so many are used to exploiting it and taking advantage of it. And this here is the distinguishing factor between, do you really care about your grandma and her people? This is the distinguishing factor.
Or do you really feel that the music then versus now was a way in a communication lifeline?
Yes, it was a way in a communication lifeline. And now you have rappers who are very talented, like the brother that just died. What's his name? Juice WRLD.
Who? King Von?
Juice WRLD. Now,
Rest in peace, King Von. Rest in peace, Mo.
But I'm going to tell you why I say Juice WRLD. Because we talk about life or death. He just like them. He's from Chicago. Just like them, he talked about his demise.
Well, what about XX?
Same kind. Talked about his demise, but very talented, unusually talented individual.
And so what do we say right now with the new song I heard not too long ago with Busta Rhymes and, man, Kendrick Lamar is a monster.
Kendrick Lamar is, yeah. Yeah.
So when we look at the temperature, maybe I may have to agree with you, saying that we have a few, not a lot,
yeah,
but we got a few of them,
yeah,
that's out there. And before we finish, I like boxing and everything. I'm so old school in everything I do, bro.
Yeah.
I feel that the boxers today couldn't last with my boxers and all this,
No, they couldn't. I mean, Deontay Wilder is a perfect example. Let me get this one out because we got to stay on this topic. And this is where we got to definitely be able to spin off from hip-hop. Because hip-hop is in all of these.
But hold on, I just want to say this. So, because I love what it takes to be a lyricist, I can rap.
Yeah.
What do you really feel in your heart? Because I'm going to tell you what I do.
Yeah.
Eminem. I love him.
You got technically.
And when Rakim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gives you the thumb up.
Yeah. Technically, he is big fundamentals. That's what I've learned even listening to him now. He's big fundamentals. He is the Tim Duncan of rap. Now, arguably, you gotta say, to me, I say Tim Duncan is, I take
Tim Duncan was a beast.
Thank you.
22 and 2.
Arguably the best. Arguably the best. That's why you can argue Eminem is one of the best and not really be lying to nobody. Because technically, fundamentally, he's ill. And you're going to be hard-pressed to find something in his league.
Well, depending on the feedback, depending on the messages, the activity, we're going to go through, see who got close with the Kool-Aid Challenge. Whoever said cherry was right, but it was cherry and tropical punch. So if
and tropical punch.
So if nobody else got anything past cherry, Sister Alicia will be the winner of the prize for this week.
She said cherry.
For this week. I do want to say this. Please go to www.Ol'Skooled Network. Please download $1.99. Please download Love Was Behind It All. If you truly love your grandma and the elders of your family, this is a must-have over the holiday season. I want to say, I'm trying to hurry up and get out of here because we got these smothered steaks in the oven with these mashed potatoes and rolls. But I want to just say thank you. Make sure you be safe. Spread positive energy. And like we said, man, if you ever feel that you're not cared about, things ain't going your way and you don't feel love, knowing that Punch and Duran We're old school. We love you. We got you. And we're going to do everything we possibly can every week to renew your mind, refreshing your mind, and take you back and just make you think. Start having a peaceful, positive energy in your home, your surroundings, and around your family. I'm done. The brother's going to give y'all the nightly
So we're
clip
going
from
to have our
Brainwash.
scholastic hour. We're going to have our scholastic hour from our book that we're following here, Brainwash, Challenging the Myth of Black Inferiority, by Hollywood marketing executive Tom Burrell. This is a man who's using science, he's using research, and he's talking basic reality and common sense about how systematically there is a marketing and advertising goal to exploit. And that's really what the conversation we have to have, which is, what is exploitation? And why is human exploitation a conversation? And if I have any spirituality in me, I'm willing to address this issue. This is the human issue. Exploitation. Exploitation is how you have a political human pandemic. How does a pandemic become political? It only becomes political when exploiting people is open season. And so Mr. Burrell brings up the conversation that I bring up every Monday and Thursday. This book examines our subconscious perpetuation of the myth of black inferiority by asking these fundamental questions. Why can't we build strong families? Why do we perpetuate black sexual stereotypes? Why are black and beauty still contradictions? Why do we keep killing each other? Why are we killing ourselves? Why can't we stop shopping? Why do we expect so little of each other and ourselves? Why do we give up our power so willingly? Why can't we stick and stay together? And why is the joke always on us? So we left off with, why can't we build strong families? Now let's address shortly, why do we perpetuate black sexual stereotypes? So we have to ask ourselves, when we talk hip hop, and we talked about the men and the women and how they interacted with each other. And we talked about our female artists being artists and not just being sex symbols, but being sex symbols because of the respect that they commanded. Being sex symbols because of the adoration that they commanded. And when you knew you was associated with something like that, these were things that were appropriate and healthy for the human existence. But now we've gotten into something a little bit more natural, a little less thinking, a little less chivalrous. And so, reading a quick excerpt here for why do we conform to black sexual stereotypes, he writes, the criticism was swift and furious. Sports columnists and cultural commentators accused editors of influential fashion magazines of monkeying around with James's image, invoking the centuries-old stereotypes of the black savage in search of the prized white woman, to give their annual issues devoted to size and shape a little extra thrill. Others noted that the image was framed by photographer Annie Leibovitz was eerily similar to the 1933 King Kong movie poster, in which the giant raging dark ape carries off a fair-skinned damsel in distress. And so I just read shortly of a classic play that's been made historically of black males being a less desirable, being out in the street, not worthy of the civilities, but in a daring way goes after the white woman as a prize. This phenomenon takes away from the powers of our families. This phenomenon takes away from the humanism and the appropriate requirement for male and female to harmonize. And so I continue to compel us to look into that. Is our music producing that harmony between the opposite sexes? Is it producing the drums? Is it producing the soundtrack for families to grow and to create harmony inside the homes? And we've been off since since the King Kong perception. We've been off since the blues. We've been off even in the beginning of hip hop. We've had our times. And so getting back on track, you know, we're doing this with Ol'Skooled. Like the brother said, if nobody is expressing charity, if nobody is having that old school feeling that you know, you gotta be it. I gotta be it. We gotta do just a little bit that we didn't do last year to express to somebody that if don't nobody else love you, we do. All right, we out.
Till next Monday night at 7. Y'all be safe and be peaceful.
Man, Kool-Aid is serious, man.
Kool-Aid fire tomorrow. Well, we're gonna shut everything down. I don't think it was too bad today.
No. I don't think so. I think, like they said, we desperately need that schedule to be on.
But we really was on today, though.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and look at it.
More than anything.
Well, we got the link out there.
Do we?
Yeah, the link is out there. It was on the show.
Stink!
Man, yeah, I knew you was ready to get over there too.
Well, he stink!
Like my steak is in there, man. Time to get after it.
Stink!
Thank you.